Well, hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Wanda Wortham, and this is my husband, Eric Wortham. I guess he was supposed to introduce himself, but you know I like to take over sometimes. But, we're here tonight. We're going to do a presentation about In Our Own Voice, and this is dealing with, it's coming from NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we just wanted to come out and share with our family here, because we think we're part of this, we know we're part of this family here, and we're just trying to break the stigma about mental illness. Thank you. Okay. Okay, my name is Wanda Wortham, as I just said. I have been married to my best friend for 28 years. I am a mother of 3. I also have 6 beautiful grandchildren. And in addition to our family, we have a beautiful cat named Chloe, a beautiful dog named Bella, and they complete our family. And NAMI. NAMI stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. We provide advocacy, education, support, public awareness so that all people affected by mental illness can build better lives. Now I would like to turn it over to my co-presenter to introduce himself.
All right, and I am Eric Wortham, behavior specialist, educator, and author, and also spokesperson for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And our purpose today is to offer insights that provide support and roles that matter to us all, to be better siblings, co-workers, neighbors, service providers, parents, spouses, and friends. Mental health conditions in ourselves or in someone we care about can impact those roles. The stories you will hear today will describe how mental health affects people and their relationships with others. Now, we normally have videos that go with it, but something is wrong with the video portion of it, so we won't do the videos, but we will be speaking in terms of what happens to us, what helps us, and what's next for us. We're here for you and want to speak about what you're most interested in hearing. After the presentations, we appreciate if you fill out an evaluation form, either online, but we have the forms here, so we would just like people to volunteer to fill out the evaluation. And we also have demographics forms because NAMI likes to keep track with who they're reaching, because we're trying to reach a broad group of people, so we like to keep up with who we're reaching. So if you don't mind, if you volunteer to fill out the demographic portion. So we'll start off, what happened to you?
Okay, what happened to me? In August 2013, I was in a car accident. And the result of the car accident, I was no longer able to work. Not being able to work or do things that I once was able to do caused me to go into a deep depression. Having to depend on others really was very difficult for me to accept. I didn't know where or how to find help in my family for mental illness. Mental health was not a topic that was discussed among our family. During this time in my life, several friends and family members didn't believe that the accident could cause my mental state to change so drastically. That led me to believe that they thought that I wasn't being truthful or I was being extra. What happened to you, Eric?
Well, what happened to me is 3 years early on into my education career, I started feeling like I couldn't focus on certain things. My work was starting to pile up, and for my history, I've always been a perfectionist. So I used to keep up with my work, and not only did I do things on time, but I always did things before they were due. But during this period, it was hard for me to focus, and I had a big issue with that. I had my administrators, I had my colleagues, you know, they were all coming to me saying, hey, Eric, something is wrong. You need to find out what's going on. And also my wife eventually encouraged me to go and get some help, because at this point, my work was mediocre at best. And if you don't understand, I work with students that are special ed, which we don't call it special ed anymore. We call them exceptional students now. And so you have legal documents that have to be done. And so I was in the midst of getting backed up with the work, and so it was crucial that I find out what was going on with me. And so my wife encouraged me to go see her therapist, and after they did their evaluation, eventually they diagnosed me with adult ADHD. And when I heard that, I really was floored, because I've been working with students that have emotional behavior disorders and ADD, but I've never heard of adult ADHD. And so for me, it was difficult for me to accept that diagnosis at first, because in my family, we didn't deal with mental health issues. We just thought people like that were crazy, lazy, or had a demon in them. You know, so we didn't discuss those type of things. But after a while, I did accept the diagnosis, because it did explain a lot of things that was happening to me. What helps you?
Thank you, honey. What helped me, after realizing that I would stand in a state of depression for an extended amount of time, I finally realized that I needed professional help. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Receiving help really made me feel like, okay, y'all hear me a little better now? Okay. All right. I'm going to start this over, okay? Okay, what helped me? After realizing that I would stand in a state of depression for an extended amount of time, I finally realized that I needed professional help. Receiving help really made me feel like I had a chance again in life. My psychiatrist diagnosed me with PTSD, major depression, anxiety, and insomnia. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And major depression, anxiety, and insomnia is when you can't sleep at night. I now have to take medication for my diagnosis. Okay, honey, what happened to you? What helped you?
Well, what helps me is really 4 parts. Number one is the therapy that I receive as well. I talk to my therapist every 2 months. And the reason that people that suffer from mental health illnesses want to see a therapist is because, number one, you want to find out what is going on with your brain, because it's actually a brain disorder. And so you want to find out what's going on in your brain, and you want to find out what are your triggers. Because for a lot of mental health conditions, there is something that triggers those individuals. People with schizophrenia, bipolar, there is something that normally triggers them. And so you want to talk to a therapist because you want to know what those triggers are. And number 2 is medication. I do have to take medication, but mine is PRN, and so I don't have to take it all the time. But there are times when I feel myself drifting, going into that never ever land, you know, that I have to take my medicine so I can get things done, because I'm a writer. And as a writer, you know, you have to be able to focus. And because the ADHD caused me to lose focus for long periods of time, there are times that I have to take my medicine. And the third part of it is support. One of the things that NAMI has done for me is it has given me the opportunity to share, you know, my wife's and my story with people such as yourself. And that support helps me to keep going forward. And I want you to know that people tend to think that getting support or asking for help is a bad thing, but it's really not. Because we all need support. Anybody that makes it in this life has to have support. They know somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that could help them out. And so we all need support. People that do networking events, why are they doing networking events? Because they need that support to be able to get their business to be where they want it to be. So asking for support is not a bad thing. And the last thing is faith, because you have to have faith. For me, faith is what helps me in those times that are dark. You know, me and my wife both have had those dark moments because you get frustrated. And the frustration because you want to do something, you have the motivation to do something, but you can't. And so those times will lead you into a dark, deep depression. And during those times, you have to believe that there is a higher power that can help you to pull through those things. So those are the things that help me. What's next for you, Anna?
Okay, what's next for me? Thank you. First of all, the power of prayer and people not giving up on me when I gave up on myself. After my doctor made the necessary adjustments for my medication, he suggested that I attend a support group called NAMI, which is National Alliance on Mental Illness. That group was just what I needed. Being able to share my feelings and didn't have to worry about anyone judging me because we all had something in common. We all were in recovery and have been diagnosed with some type of mental illness. Since I have been a part of NAMI for 3.5 years, I have completed several courses that they have offered for free. I am now a certified facilitator where I teach our peer support group on Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Also, I am a certified peer-to-peer specialist, mentoring others that are experiencing mental illness. And also, I just completed my in our own board certification, and I can be a presenter like I'm presenting to you all now. And also, I'm part of the leadership team, which we are becoming our own affiliate here in Henry County sometime this year, in 2019. And I am the team captain for our walk that we have every year, in which we will be having the walk again this year, October the 5th at 9:30. 2019 at Clark Atlanta University. We would love for you all to come out and support. We not only do NAMI help adults, they help children as well. This is the first year that they have ended the silence. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with that, but that is where actually I have a certification in that as well, which you go out and you go to the schools and you talk with the students. There's a counselor there, and they share everything with the students about suicide because so many children are taking their lives. And we go there and we talk, get the children to open up and let them know that everything is okay. Bullying is not okay. Anyone that's having diagnosis and don't know what to do, it's not okay. Because guess what? All of us are unique in our own way. Because I have a diagnosis, you may have one. You just haven't been diagnosed. But I have, and I'm in acceptance with that. And that's why I can move on with my life. And also at the end, if my last thing is saying, I'm going to write a book this year. That's my last goal. And honey, what's next for you?
Well, what's next for me is I'm going to continue with my mission and vision, which is I want to help the below average and average thinking individual learn that they have above average potential to be great. And one of the ways that I do that is I have released a book in 2017, which is called From Dependency to Freedom, but I still must fight, and you can get that on Amazon or my website, which you will have that information. And now I'm getting ready to release my second book, The Immaculate Concept of Meaning. And the theme for that book is that when I learn how to change my perspective of how I see myself, my whole world changes. So I'm excited about that book. Not only that, I do classroom management training to help teachers learn how to use 21st century skills to get their students to be productive in the classroom. And that means students that have bad behavior. And I also teach parents. I have a seminar to where I teach parents how to have 21st century training skills, because it does no good for the teachers to have 21st century skills in teaching and delivery and the parents don't have those same type of skills, so I do that as well. And of course, we still do the things with NAMI. You know, I've done several symposiums so far, and a lot of symposiums that we're doing this year are with the faith-based community. And when we get with the faith-based community, most of the questions that we get is how can we help our congregation that suffers from mental health illness, because it happens. And so God has blessed us and given us that ministry to be able to help our brothers and sisters that suffer with mental health illness to, number one, realize that it's okay to ask for help, to understand and realize that it is a brain disorder, but you can do something about it. And the last thing is to let them know that you still can be successful. Mental health illness should not stop us from reaching our level of success. And I want to, as we stated before, we have evaluations that we want you can volunteer. You don't have to fill one out, but we appreciate if you decide to. And also the demographic form, so we'll know the area in which we are making sure that we shame the silence, because that's what it is. There's a big stigma around, especially in the black communities. We don't talk about mental health. Our brothers and sisters of the Caucasian race, they tend to be more open about their situation, and they tend to be more receptive of asking for help. So we want to be able to bring that to our African American brothers and sisters as well. And also, you'll see right here, we have information. We bring information with us so that you'll have the information that you need about NAMI, because NAMI is doing some great things, and a lot of people just don't know about NAMI. I have a sister that has a daughter that is schizoaffective, and she hears voices that are not there. She sees things that are not there, and she struggled for a year and a half because she was afraid to say anything to anybody. She was afraid of the reputation. It may damage her reputation, because she's an educator as well in DeKalb County, very well known. And so she dealt with this for a year and a half, had to move from apartment to apartment because her daughter was damaging the apartment, breaking out windows, hitting walls, because she thought she was being attacked. And so NAMI has programs to help parents understand how to help their children that are suffering with mental health issues. It has programs that help caregivers to understand and have strategies to be able to help their caregivers. And all these programs that they offer are absolutely free. You have to pay nothing. And the way that we are able to pay for it is because we have a walk. And we will be talking to Pastor Roberts about the NAMI walk that we have every single year, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know, thousands of people are coming. Last year was the first year that we did it at Clark Atlanta University, and the students on the whole campus, Morehouse, Spelman, they were so excited about it that this year they're going to treat the NAMI walk like they do their homecoming. They're going to have a whole week of celebrations doing it. And so we're excited about where NAMI is going. We're excited about how ministries are now starting to incorporate the ministry to their congregation that are dealing with mental health illnesses. So if you will, raise your hand if you're a volunteer to fill out the form. And also, we want to open the floor up for you to be able to ask us questions about mental health illness.
I have a question. I guess it would, this question. Some of the mental illness disorders or whatever, are they actually curable? Do you have to stay on medication for the rest of your life?
Well, that depends on the circumstance.
No, go ahead.
Now, and let me chime in on that as well. It's pretty much like I do alcohol, drug risk reduction program as well. And the way that I tell people is that the addiction doesn't go anywhere. It's like the grass in the wintertime. You'll see that it turns brown or white or whatever you want to call it. But it's not dead. It seems like it's dead. It appears to be dead. But when the right conditions come, the sun, the rain, guess what? It turns green again. And that's what addiction does. It lies dormant. And as long as you're doing the strategies that you learn, you'll be okay. But once you stop using the strategies, just like the grass will turn green, you'll be right back in addiction. And mental health is the same way. Some mental health issues are not curable. Most of them are not curable, but we have strategies that allow people to be effective still. And that's the people that are doing the, in our own voice, these are people that are successful. The people that are in our group in Henry County, we have all kind of professionals, lawyers, doctors, and these people are still excelling as long as they manage their conditions. So it's not necessarily a cure, but you can manage it and still be effective.
So I heard you mention Henry County. Is in our own voice, is it chapters of NAMI, or is it just one organization throughout
It's
Henry County?
it's all the NAMI organizations does in our own voice. Because we actually have to go to the headquarters in order to do the training.
Okay.
So
Is that located here, or?
Yes, it's in, what is that, Cal?
It's the DeKalb County. Now, I don't know the particulars, but you will find a lot of that information in the forms that we're going to give you. And we're going to leave an information sheet with you,
Sure.
so that you can make sure that your congregation has it. If you want to print copies of it, you give it to everybody. And that way they'll know where all the chapters are throughout the state.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. I had a granddaughter who attempted suicide like maybe a couple months ago. She was on life support and everything, and God kept her here. I don't know how anything else but that. My question is, since she did that, will she need continuous help? Because she's thinking now that she's okay.
Yeah, she needs support. To be honest with you, on April the 11th, we're actually having another question and answer symposium at Mays High School, because Mays has had 4 suicide attempts within the last couple of years at their school, and so they want us to bring that information to them. Yes, but people that get to that severe of a level, yeah, they would need support. And that's why I recommend to have a therapist that you believe in and trust. And now, just like I do with my parents of my students, because a lot of my students have emotional behavior disorder. That means that they're violent, both verbally and physically. So a lot of them have to take medications. But I encourage my parents to understand that I don't want them to be on the same level of medication for the rest of their lives either. The goal is for them to be able to function on the least amount of medication possible. And so that's the goal, is for us to get wean off of some of the medication, but she definitely needs a therapist so they can get a plan for her to be successful, because if she's done it before, it's a good chance that she can try it again if she don't have support yet.
I raised a child who was on young, but he should be still on it, but he's not. He's one of the types that refused to take his medicine, refused to listen to anything someone tell him, and he's just out there. Only thing I can do for him now is pray for him.
Right.
I would like to get help for him, but I know he wouldn't take it.
Right, and that's
What could we do for that?
and so what I try to tell most parents is, because I've been able to help parents get their kids to take the medication, and what I tell them is to try to find somebody that they look up to, somebody in the community, somebody that they know, and try to allow that person to, continue that bond with them. And if you speak to people the right way, the way that I speak to my students is everything I'm doing is to help you be successful. I want you to reach your full potential. And that's the only reason that I would even talk to you about this. And so it's got to come from somebody that is able to reach them and influence them, in a major way. I've been able to help a lot of parents, when their kid decides that they don't want to take medication.
And also, I would like to share with you all as well. NAMI also are training police officers to be able to know the correct way how to deal with an individual that has a mental illness when they come in contact with them. You can't just throw them down or shoot them or anything like that. It's certain steps. So that's one of the things I know in different counties that they're doing now. So that's a thumbs up for that. So NAMI is really involved in a lot of things, a lot of different chapters they're just doing because it's needed. Because you see someone, they even teaching us how to identify with another individual that may be in a crisis. So they even have training like that for us to be able to see that one of our peers or someone needing help, so we will know what to do in that situation, because I have been in that situation myself.
The program is called CIT, Crisis Intervention Training, and I am an instructor in that training, and trust me, we have been doing a lot of training all over, just all over the country, and every time I go to one, it is packed. And not only is it police officers, but the officers and firemen and people like that, they are the biggest group, but we also have administrators that come now. We have school guidance counselors that's coming now, and the program is offered to anybody for free. Now, it's a 3-day training, and it's like all day from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock the first 2 days, and then the third day is half of a day. But it gives you the opportunity to learn if somebody may be in a crisis situation. Because if somebody is in a crisis situation, you have to know how to communicate with them. Because if you communicate the wrong way, it'll take them overboard, and you don't want to do that. So we even teach you how to de-escalate, what we call it. And that de-escalation has worked for me every single time. I've been in education for 11 years, and the reason I'm successful is because I know how not to let my students get to that point where they start throwing things and turning over tables and chairs, because that's what they do. That's why they come to me, is because the other teachers cannot deal with their situation, and I've been very successful because of the de-escalation techniques that I use.
Do you,
Go ahead.
do you go into the school by invitation only, or if the administrators or teachers want this help, what procedures must they follow in order to get it, or are you just working in certain counties?
Right. Some of the information that we give you will show you how to do that, but we offer it to anybody that requests it.
They request it.
So they request it, and like this, in our own voice, is just me going around. I talk to Pastor Roberts. Me and him grew up together, and I say, hey man, let me bring this program. And I have other pastor friends that I have that we've been, doing this in our voice training too. But anybody that requests one of the programs that NAMI asks, we'll be able to come. Now, there are some programs where you have to have at least, 10 people for us to be able to provide it, because NAMI actually have to pay the instructors to do some of those things, some of those trainings that we do. So yes, we can. You can call in the question. Yeah, this gentleman in the back.
I was me and my wife, we actually came late. And that, because of that, I was just concerned because it was very alarming when I first heard the announcement that you guys would be coming to the Bible
Right.
with this type of program, this
Right.
type of platform.
Right.
But in relative to all that, you know, I often hear everybody has mental health, then you always, then sometimes you hear, ain't nothing wrong with you, with that and the other. I was interested in how you guys started, or whether or not there was any type of scripture that can tie in with the, you know, where you're at even right now. Because I'm imagining the verbal disputes as well as conflict that you guys have to encounter, just trying to keep it on the basic level.
Right. Right.
You know, with, you know, the Bible said this, and we're more than conquerors, and I can do all things, you know. And that's
Right.
what my scripture.
Right, now, I'm going to speak on my perspective. This is not NAMI's perspective because NAMI doesn't take a, you know, religious side or anything like that, but I'm going to tell you from my perspective, it is not in conflict with the Bible because this is what I see, and the thing that we haven't been doing in the church is real ministry. You know, we have people that actually have mental health issues. One of my sisters' problem was she was treating it like it was a demon in her daughter.
Right.
And she would go to the church and they would try to pray the demon out, but guess what? It didn't get better.
Right.
It got worse. Okay? And so it was the church that eventually told her, you need to take your daughter to a hospital because this is how I see it. God gives gifts to men. He gives it to us. You know, the doctor that, you know, have all this knowledge and know how to do surgery, that's not his gift. That's a gift that God gave him. God gives gifts to men because he wants us to be able to help one another. That's what ministry is. You know, whether he a Christian or not, God gave him that gift because the Bible tells us that God gives gifts to men. And so for so many years in the church, we haven't been ministering to people that have conditions like that. When you look at the man that was in the Garden of Gethsemane, cutting himself with rocks in the tombs, you know, because they didn't want him in the community. What does that sound like? Somebody with a mental health illness because they're not allowed to be in the community. And so you get frustrated, and I can see him. When I see that scripture saying he's trying to cut himself with a knife, that to me is him trying to commit suicide. So I don't think this is against the Bible. You know, I think this is something that God wants us to do. It's a part of ministry. And the thing is we have to make sure, just like anything else, if we buy a car or something like that, we go and check the company that we're going to buy the car from. It's the same way. If you have to go to a therapist, you have to look at, you know, that therapist's background. So you make sure that it's not just medication, because I agree with you sometimes. Some doctors, all they want to do is fill you up with medication so you can walk around like a zombie. That's not the kind of treatment you want. You want a doctor that really focuses on the therapy so it can get you to where you can function with the least medication possible. So it's not against God. Yes.
Like Brother Cole, I came in a little late, but I have a lot of clients that has Alzheimer's and depression, anxiety, and they do not want to be on medication because if so, they would not be eligible for what I do. I'm a benefit coordinator, and but they want to see someone for counseling, for advice. Do you guys have an office, or again, I came in on the tail end, I don't know
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, we have information right here, and like I say, you want a therapist that the goal is for you. We call it in the school system, we call it the least restrictive environment. So we want our students that are exceptional students, used to be special education, we want them to be able to function in the general education classroom with all of their other students, if possible. So that's the goal, is for us to get them in that area. So even with mental health, the goal is for us to want them to function without the medication. But again, you have to get with a therapist though, that their focus is trying to get you more into the therapy, because if you get more of the therapy, you learn what your triggers are, you learn, what's happening in your brain, then you're more or less likely to have those crisis situations. And when those crisis situations get ready to come, you know how to use your strategies and techniques to avoid, just the extreme stuff. Yes?
Have you heard anything about nutrition being a therapy for some people, just changing sometimes a person's diet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Changing your diet. See, and that's all of that goes into the therapy. Diets, we know that there are some things that trigger, certain mental health illnesses. And so that's why I say it's very vital and important that you look up the therapists, use people that already have a good therapist. And those are the kind of things that your therapists are working on. They're not just looking at the medication. They're looking at the whole scope of what are you eating? What are you doing? What are your strategies? What are you going to do for, when this thing triggers? You know what your triggers are now. What are you going to do to avoid those triggers or minimize them? Yes, sir.
If I'm being confronted with the question from any class of people saying, what is mental health? What type of answer would you suggest that I give?
It's a brain disorder. It's a brain disorder. I mean, it's, people have cancer, people have heart disease and all of these things, man. It is a brain disorder because something either messages or something is not, clicking in the brain. So it is a brain.
He's crazy or she's crazy.
Right, but that's a stigma.
Right.
And that's what we're here to do, is to break that stigma. Now, like I said earlier, in our brothers and sisters that are the Caucasian race, they're more likely, they understand things like that, so they try to go get help. It's just the majority of it that come in families, like you say, where people like that are crazy or they have a demon, and that is just not the case to the most part.
Anyone else?
I have a question. So how many, I guess I could ask. Well, how many mental illnesses is it? I mean, I heard you say yours was depression after your car accident, and his was
ADHD.
ADHD.
Right.
Like now, I just found out nutrition. Like how many mental illnesses is it?
But there are quite a few. A lot of those things don't fall into the mental illness, but those that specifically affects the brain. Schizophrenia, bipolar, and you have different levels of bipolar. You have schizoaffective, you have major depressive disorder, you have PTSD, you have ADHD, and some of your people that I forgot what you call it, but people just like to do things the same way. OCD. That is another mental health illness.
Personality disorder is also a mental illness.
And if you go on the NAMI website, you will see a list of all of those conditions that we consider mental health illness. Yep.
I heard you mention about you said you were right.
Yes.
And automatically that caught my attention. But I wondered, do you have all your books here tonight, or any kind of way I can get access to it?
Yeah, I think I have a few books here, but you can go to my website, and I'm going to pass out some cards as well. You can go to my website and get one, or you can go to Amazon and get one. But you'll have my card, and you can put in author name, and it'll give you that book. And like I say, my next book is coming out pretty soon as well.
Is there anyone else? Well, thank you all for having us tonight. I hope you all enjoy it.
I don't have a question. question, but I do want to say this to everyone. And first, I just want to thank Brother Eric